Greetings everyone, Ben here from TheVirtualEconomist and welcome to a new video. If you've been watching TF2 trading videos for the last year or so, you've probably seen your fair share of top 5 cheapest unusuals videos like this one, and well, this one. While I've always really liked the concept of these videos, I've always found them somewhat limiting in their scope. You see, one of the focuses of these videos was to put a spotlight on inexpensive unusuals people could buy on a budget. However, due to the specificity of the 5 unusuals selected, it sometimes posed a problem for the exact person looking to buy a budget hat. For example, what if you wanted something other than a nuts and bolts hat? What if there was no steaming Larkin Robbins on the market? What if you had more than 9.5 keys to spend? If you found yourself thinking any of the previous thoughts, then these videos probably didn't help you. This got me thinking, was there a different way to do this? Turns out there was. Instead of going over a number of specific unusuals, I figured I should go over a top list of all the best unusual effects to buy on a budget. This way, if you like one of the effects I talk about, you can just go on to backpack.tf classifieds and find all the cheap hats with these great effects. Now, if I just did this, I feel like the video would seem somewhat incomplete. So that's why I decided to invite some of the top list experts themselves, Spikey Mikey and PyroJoe, to help me teach you exactly what virtual pixels to buy on a budget. Before I get into the video, I need to go over 4 quick things. Number 1, this video will only go over unusual hat effects, not taunt or weapon effects. This is basically because the latter 2 are much less affordable. Number 2, partner effects will appear together, while similar effects will not. None of these will be on the list, but for example, Hellfire and Darkblaze would appear together, while It's a Secret to Everybody and Cloudy Moon would appear apart. Number 3, yes, there are 12 effects on this list, not 10. This is mostly because I couldn't decide what to eliminate, but it also helps me out because people can't claim I'm being unoriginal by making a top 10 list. And finally, number 4. This list is based entirely on our opinion, so at the end of the day, if your favorite effect was not on the list, just try to keep your salt to a bare bone minimum. Alright, so now that we've gotten the longest intro ever out of the way, let's get right on into the top 12 budget unusual effects. Take it away, Spikey.
So the first budget unusual effect that I want to put on this list because it looks really nice is steaming and smoking, so technically you get 2. But I think this mainly because steaming and smoking are actually really nice, simple effects, and they actually work well with a lot of other effects if you have them, and obviously you might not have them because this is a budget unusual effect video, but either way, it's really simple, it's really clean, really nice on a load of hats, and it will just make your classes look cool even if you don't have the best effect. People still recognize it, and people still really like it.
At number 11, I have Neutron Star. Now, you might be surprised that there is a Halloween effect on this list, but Neutron Star is actually a very good budget effect. You see, Halloween 2016 was way different than past Halloween years, where the new effects were actually unboxed to oblivion. Because of this, there are so many Neutron Star hats on the market, and a ton of people are just desperate to sell them. However, the effect is actually pretty nice. Sure, it might not be super flashy, but it honestly looks pretty solid. The only reason this effect isn't higher on my list is because a lot of people are still trying to overcharge for this effect. They remember Halloween effects being pretty expensive in the past, and likewise aren't willing to lower their buyout to reflect the actual market trends.
So the next effect that I would like to put in this video is Miami Nights, and this is such an awesome budget effect, mainly because like so many of them were unboxed when it first came out, that the hype for it completely died, even though it still looked absolutely incredible on pretty much every hat it's on. People just didn't want it because there's so many of them and they were hard to sell. But if you're keeping this for an unusual that you want to keep, it's absolutely amazing and such a good pick.
Coming in at number 9, I have TF Logo. Now, TF Logo is an effect that I think a lot of you guys probably forget about when you consider buying a cheap budget effect. Sure, it's a first gen effect, but not all first gens are very expensive. In fact, you can get most TF Logo hats for under 30 keys, and you can get them on some pretty nice looking hats. In my opinion, I really like TF Logo more than say Circle and Peace Sign, and when you can get TF Logo for a very affordable price, I really just think it's hard to beat.
At number 8, we have Starstorm, Slumber and Insomnia together. The main attraction for me is that I'm a huge fan of the Ghastly Ghosts effect and Haunted Phantasm Jr. and the way they just slowly rise up from your head. The stars slowly spawn in and fall down, meaning it's like a reverse version of the previous year's Halloween effects. Due to how severely oversaturated these are, you can actually pick them up for so cheap as well. And around the Halloween period of 2016 when they were released, you could actually pick up some insane deals. Overall, due to how severely oversaturated the market is with these hats, you're able to pick them up very easily from a lot of people who are desperate to sell them by undercutting previous sellers. This makes the unusual effect very easy to buy due to how many sellers there are, and overall I just really like it.
The next hat that I would like to put on this list is Cloud9. Now, that is because it's such a really clean and simple effect, and it actually works really well on a bunch of hats, especially if the hat is for medic, as, you know, the effect is loads of hearts flying around, and it actually looks really awesome, and yeah, like, it's really cheap, mainly because it's a 3rd gen effect. As you guys know, if you do trading a lot, 3rd gen effects are generally quite cheap. But honestly, I really like a bunch of the Gen 3 effects and definitely think they look awesome on a budget.
So in the number 6 spot we have both Kilowatt and Terawatt. These effects together were both released in the June 2013 update, and with over 5,000 of each in existence, it's safe to say that there's always going to be quite a few on the market, which leads to the fact that they both have a price of around 28 keys on average. The yellow and green colours go perfectly and allow you to make a very good budget loadout with other painted cosmetics. Overall, I feel like these are some great budget unusual effects. Coming in at number 5 we have Stormy Storm. I've always been a big fan of the Stormy Storm and Blizzardy Storm effects respectively, and I really like how they just, when you spawn in, just slowly form above your head and just sort of lurk there with the raindrops falling and the lightning occasionally bolting down. I think it's a really cool unusual effect and it's definitely very overlooked, and it's so cheap on the vast majority of hats. One really cool aspect about Stormy Storm in my opinion is how noticeable it is. You can see it from just about anywhere on the map, which I think is really cool. It's a very noticeable and very loud unusual effect, and for the price, I mean, you can pick them up now for like 9 to 10 keys on a lot of hats. It's definitely worth it in my opinion.
At number 4, I have Vivid Plasma. Again, Vivid is an effect that I think a lot of people don't really think is a budget effect because it is a 1st gen. But if you really look at the prices of a lot of Vivid Plasma hats, you can get Vivid Plasma on most hats for under 30 keys. While I've never been a big fan of Searing Plasma, I think that Vivid Plasma honestly looks pretty darn insane. Sure, it might not be super flashy, but if you combine it with a lot of nice looking cosmetics, maybe with the orange paint, it really just looks insane for the price. Overall, if you have around 25 keys to spend, I really think that Vivid Plasma is a really good bet for a nice, cheap, unusual.
At the number 3 spot we have Orbiting Fire. Orbiting Fire has an extremely low average price of about 29 keys. This is only brought up by a few very high tier unusuals, raising the average, and generally you're able to pick up a Orbiting Fire unusual for around 9 to 10 keys. It orbits around your character's head extremely slowly, meaning everyone gets a chance to see it if you do want to show off your nice new unusual effect. Overall, I feel like this is a very, very underrated and a very great budget unusual effect. If you're trying to build a nice loadout, you can just get like 2 orange painted mists, and that's what I used to do. I used to buy Orbiting Fire hats, buy orange painted mists, and it would be like I felt like I had a cheap version of burning, and that is essentially what this effect is, just a smaller flame that goes around your head.
Coming in at number 2, we have Blizzardy Storm, and damn do I love this effect. Blizzardy Storm is a very, very nice, clean, large, noticeable effect that you can get for a very, very inexpensive price. The reason I didn't lump this together with Stormy Storm is because I think that the effects are fundamentally different. While they're both pretty large and noticeable effects, I think that Blizzardy Storm just looks so much cleaner and nicer than Stormy Storm does. Maybe I'm just a sucker for winter-themed effects because I like Frostbite so much, but for the price, I think it's almost impossible to beat a Blizzardy Storm hat. You can get Blizzardy Storm on most hats for under 15 keys, which is just insane to think about for such a nice, crisp, clean effect.
And the best budget loadout ever, in my opinion, obviously, is the Disco Beatdown effect. Now, anybody who knows me or my channel knows I absolutely adore this effect, and it's so awesome. Like, I absolutely love it. It's really cheap on most hats, and it just looks incredible. It's a cheap effect mainly because of just how many hats have this effect on, and how many of each hat with this effect on actually exist. So obviously the supply is much higher than the demand, which forces people to sell their hats for lower, and you've got plenty of choice for hats to pick with this hat. I just love it so much.
And there you have it, our top 12 budget unusual effects. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, so you don't miss more of my content in the future. Oh, and if you're looking for some great non-bi-monthly content, I would definitely recommend checking out Spikey Mikey and PyroJoe. They both make pretty sweet daily content that often revolves around trading, cosmetics, and TF2 in general. Until next time guys, thanks for watching.